Hey guys, welcome back to this discussion on SQL Server. In today's session, I'm going to talk about the select statement in detail. The select statement is a data query command of SQL Server. The select statement has a very a detailed implementation in the SQL Server domain. And in today's session, I'm going to talk about those implementation. Now, before I proceed with the hands-on examples and get into action, let us first see what are the topics that I'm going to talk about in terms of the select statement in SQL Server. When we talk about select statement, today I'm going to talk about how we can implement select with from, clauses like where, operator like and or, how we can use the select statement with in, between, how we can use the select statement to check for the null values, how we can use a select statement along with an alias, how to find a distinct value from a set of data using a select statement, how we can use as with select, how we can sort our data using a select statement, and we'll see the uses of case, year, and some time intelligence component or time component along with the select statement. Now, as I said, select statement is a data query language or data query command you can sub-SQL. It's the most powerful command we use in SQL to extract the data from the table. Now, select statement is the most commonly used statement in SQL, but it has lot of implementation in terms of conditions, operators, functions, alias, data management. And in today's session, we are going to see some of the implementation in terms of the select statement with the other constants or components of SQL Server. So let's jump into the action and see how we can use this select statement in various forms. In my last video, I showed you how we can restore a database. So for today's session, I'm going to work on this AdventureWorks 2019 database that I have restored yesterday. Now what I can do, I can click on new query, and what I can do, I can first initialize the database or first getting connected to the database on which I'm going to work. So I'll write use ADVWorks 2019, and now I'll execute this statement, and you can see the ADVWorks 2019 has been updated over here. Now let me write a very simple query using select where I'll be working on a particular table in this AdventureWorks 2019 database. So I'll click on this plus sign, and in the table folder, if I expand this particular folder over here, I can see there are number of tables which are listed under this particular database. Among this table, I will be selecting the human resource dot employee database or table. Sorry. Now, human resource dot employee. What I can do, I can write a simple statement over here is select star from human resource dot employee. Now you might be thinking, what is this human resource and how we are accessing the employee table using this human resource option. This human resource is nothing but a schema. Now I'll be discussing about how we can create schema in SQL in my upcoming discussions. But for now, you can say schema is just a structure of the table under which we define the other tables related to that particular structure, or you can say schema is a segment of a database under which we define various type of tables. So under the schema human resource, I am working with the table employee. And now let's see what happened when I execute this particular query. And as I said, there are three ways to execute a query. Either you can use this execute option, or you can press F5, or you can just use the Control plus E option. And we can see that this select statement along with the star icon or the star symbol, which symbolizes all the records from the table, has fetched all the records from the employee table, which is created under the human resource schema. And we can see over here that this particular employee table consists of columns like business entity ID, national ID number, login ID, job title, birth date, material status, and all the employer related information. Now, this is the most basic implementation of select statement, which is followed by a star symbol and a from keyword. Now, what if I want to associate a condition with this select statement? For example, what if I wanted to know or I wanted to fetch only those data where the gender is equals to male? Over here, we can see there is a gender column in the table. Now, what I want to fetch only those data where the employee gender is equals to male. Now, before I proceed forward, whenever we are working with a condition in SQL, we have to use the keyword called where, or you can say we have to use the clause called where. Now, where clause allows you to define the condition within the query. It holds or it states the condition under which the particular query will be executed. So how we can define a where over here? So the requirement is that I want to fetch all the record from this particular table employee where the employee gender is equals to male. So I'll come to the next line and I'll write where gender is equals to male. Now what I have done, I've defined the condition. Now if I execute this particular statement, you will see that I have got all the records which is selected with the star symbol where the employee gender is equals to male. Now what if I want to work with multiple conditions under the where clause? Suppose I wanted to understand or I wanted to know about the vacation hours of the employees. So there's one column over here stating the vacation hours in terms of the employees. Now I wanted to get a information where I'm looking for those employees whose vacation hour is more than 40. So there might be any compliance in the organization where an employee, if the vacation hour during a specific period is more than 40, then there will be some set of rules applicable for that particular employee. Stating that particular condition in mind, let us find out the employees who are male but have a vacation hour more than 40. So for this, what we have to do? We have to work on multiple conditions. Now, whenever we are working with multiple conditions in SQL Server, we have to use certain operators, certain logical operators, certain greater or less operators. Now, over here, what I can do, I can modify this particular query and we can add more information as select star from the employee table where gender is equals to male and vacation hour is greater than 40. And now if I execute this statement, you'll get all the male employees details where the vacation hour is more than 40. Now what if I want to extract certain particular columns from the table in terms of the specific condition or in terms of the stated conditions in this query? Now suppose I'm interested to know about some specific columns in the table. I don't want to fetch the whole data using the star symbol. I wanted to know the job title. I wanted to know the material status. I wanted to know the, you can say, vacation hours of the employee, where the employee is male and where the vacation hour is more than 40. So what I can do, I can remove this star. I can bring the from in the next line and let us state the columns. So I want to fetch the job title, comma. I want to get the material status of the employee, and I want to know the vacation hours column also. Along with this, let's also get the, let me check what else I can get from here. Okay, so let's keep this particular information to three columns. Now what I have done, instead of fetching all the values from the column, I have selected three columns from the employee table where this specific condition has been mentioned. And now if I execute this, you can see that I have got the job title, the material status, and I've got the vacation hours as per the stated conditions over here. So you can see I started with a very simple select statement, and then I have added more and more conditions and have made the select statement more and more specific in terms of the requirement. The next thing that I wanted to work on is, if you focus on this vacation art column, we can see that the data in the vacation art column is not sorted properly. What if I want to sort the order or sort the vacation hours in terms of the descending order? How we can achieve a sorted data in SQL? We can achieve it by the order by clause. Now, for example, if I add order by clause in this particular existing select statement where I want to sort the vacation or column in descending order, and now if I execute this statement, you can see that the vacation or column is has been sorted in descending order. Further, we can add more columns to it. For example, instead of male, let me add a gender column over here. And now what I want, not only male but also the female details in terms of the vacation hours. Now how to get this kind of options where we are working with the same column but with multiple conditions. We can write it as or. So we have to replace the or with and again we have to write gender equals to female, and you can give a comma or you can just leave it like this, and we can see how we this male and female works over here. We can also add an and over here, and now if I execute it, this statement, you can see that I've got a gender male and female, the material status, the vacation hours, and you can see all the vacation hours over here. But wait, what I can see over here, even though I have able to fetch the male and female from the gender, but in the vacation hour, the specific conditions that has been stated in the query where the vacation hour should be more than 40, we can see the data where the vacation hour is showing less than 40. Now how to work on this kind of errors? Now this particular query is not actually giving an accurate result. Now how to fix this kind of issue? Now whenever we are working on this kind of issues where the data is not correct in terms of a specific conditions, we have to follow the concept of order of precedence. Now what is an order of precedence in SQL? It's nothing but using the concept of paid mass. Now in maths, we have learned the concept of paid mass where the calculation starts from the parenthesis, then it goes to exponential, then divisions, then multiplication, then addition, then subtraction. The same concept we'll be using over here in SQL, which is known as the order of precedence. Now, how we can do implement the order of precedence? We just need to put a bracket around the gender. And now what will happen? Under the concept of or under the rules of order of precedence, the bracket will be executed first and then the vacation hours will be extracted. So you can just select this particular statement and you can execute it. And now if you can see the results over here, you can see that I have got an accurate result in terms of the vacation hours, and also I was successfully able to fetch the male and the female data over here. Now this is a very interesting concept of order of precedence. It is implemented in your day-to-day work where you're working extensively with the select statement, extracting multiple values from a single column. Now, what if I want to make this particular query more and more, what you can say, specific, and how we can make this query more and more short, where we have to write minimum lines of query so that it executes faster and the performance of the query is more enhanced. Now, what I can do instead of using two gender in one query, what I can do, I can use a in keyword where I can define the male and female both over here. So let's see how we can do that. So what I can do, I can remove this particular, I can use a comment over here, comment icon over here, and under gender where clause, I can add the gender column and I can use an int statement after gender, and then within bracket I can define the male and the female over here, and I can bring the and statement into the next line. And now if I execute this particular query, I'll get the same result, but the best way that I have used over here, instead of mentioning the gender twice, I have used the gender column once, and we have defined the gender male and female within the brackets over here. So this is how we can use a in keyword to make or to shorten our queries in order to increase the time performance or the performance of the query in SQL Server. Now what if I wanted to know the range values within a certain column? Now for example, I wanted to know the vacation hours in terms of starting from 40 and 50. How we can get this kind of conditions achieved through queries. So let me take a new query over here, and the requirement is that I wanted to know, I wanted to fetch the data of the employees where the vacation hour is for between 40 and 50. So whenever you are working with a range within a specific column in your table, we'll be using the between keyword. So let's write a query for this. So what I can do, I can write select gender, so I'm going to select from human resource dot employees, and let me select the columns. So what I can do, I can write select gender, I can write job title, vacation hour from the human resource table where the vacation hour is between 40 and 50. And also let me sort the vacation hour column in descending order. So what I have done, I have actually defined the range in the vacation hour column, which should be starting from, which should be between 40 and 50. Now, if I execute this particular query, I'll get the gender, the job title, and the vacation hours between 50 and 40 sorted in descending order. Now, the takeaway from this particular piece of uh, query is that whenever we are working with a range, along with the select statement, we have to always go for this between keyword. And then we can define the range followed by the sorting command. Now, this is the best way to work with a select statement where we are working with a range value in a column. Now, what if I want to use the select statement to verify whether a particular column in a table contains null value or not? Now, the requirement is that I want to use the select statement to check whether a particular column in a table has a null value or not. So I'll take a new query for this. I'll write select from table name, that is human resource dot employee. I'll select a column called business entity, and one more column let me select where I can write the organizational node column, and I'll check with the where clause where organizational node is equal to null or not. So how to write that? We'll write is null. So we'll use this particular expression over here. And now if I execute this particular query, you can see that there is one null value in the organizational node. Now to check that particular null value, I'll write select star from human resource dot employee. And now if I execute this particular query, you can see the organizational node contains a null value at the very first row of the column. So this is how we can use the select statement to check for the null value in your table data. Now there might be some situations in our day-to-day work with the SQL Server where we need to find a particular uh, value from the table where we are not sure about the whole structure of the value. Now let me give an example. Now suppose you are working with a employee table and you are searching for a particular employee. Now it's a normal human psychology that we tend to forget about the names of the person or name of the road or place. Now over here what happens, you are not able to recall the whole name of an employee, but somehow you are able to figure out or you are able to recall a part of the name of the employee. Now, in that case, how we can use a select statement where we don't know the full name of the employee, but we can remember few words or for a part of the name. So this kind of scenario we also resolve, or this kind of scenario can also be capitalized by the use of select statement. Now let's see how we can do that. Now for this example, I'll take a new query and I'll use the person table which is available under the AdventureWorks 2019 database. Now let us first see what are the contents of this particular table. So I'll write select star from person dot person, and now if I execute it, I can see this particular table contains the details of the person starting with a person type, title, first name, last name. Now, what is the scenario that I want to search for a person whose name is Terry, but somehow I am not able to figure out the whole name. I can only figure out few words of the name, a part of the name like ERRI, but I'm not able to recall the whole name of Terry. Now, how can I use a select statement for this kind of scenarios? So I can write select, so I can remove the star symbol from here, and I can write select first name, last name from the person table where first name is like, I can write a single quote started with a underscore and then a single quote. So I can just figure out a part of the name over here, right? Now what I can do, I can select this particular statement and I can execute it. And you can see that the select statement has given me the whole name of the person, that is Terry Duffy, whose there is a first name and the last name is Duffy. So with this like keyword, it allows us to find a estimate, or it allows us to guess a part of the name, and the rest of the things can be taken care by this like keyword. So it helps the user to extract the particular value from the table where the user is not sure or is not able to recall the whole structure of that particular value. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is how we can use a select statement to find a distinct value from a set of data. Now, in every data, there will be a repetition of values within a same column. There can be a customer name which can be repeated maximum times, or they can be repeated multiple times in terms of the transaction has done. Now the question is how we can understand who are the distinct customers in our data set using a select statement. So we can use a select statement to find the distinct values from a column. And for that, we will be using this person table where I want to find the distinct name of the persons in that particular table. So what I can do, I can write a simple statement. I select distinct keyword and I can write the first name. Or what I can do, let me write select the first name. So I can write select from person dot person over here, and I can select the first name and I can write the distinct keyword in front of the first name. And now if I execute this particular query, I've got all the distinct name from the first name of the column. Now you can see there are 1018 distinct name available in this particular table. Now if I remove this distinct value from here and if I execute this particular query again, you can see there are 19,972 rows. If you can focus in the right hand side down corner of the screen, you can see there are 19,972 rows of values in this data, and out of which the distinct values can be calculated with this distinct keyword. So the distinct values among all these rows is 1018 rows. So we have seen how we can use a distinct value with a select statement. The next thing that I wanted to discuss is all about having an alias name. Now how we can give an alias name to a column by using a select statement. Now if you can see in this particular query, we have seen the column name as first name. Now what if I don't want to have this particular column name? Instead of this, I want to have an employee first name as column name. So how I can give a different column name using a select statement. Now we can give a different column name means we want to give an alias name to the column. Alias is a concept where we have alternative names for a specific value or a specific expression. Now to have an alternative value means allocating or assigning an alias name. Now in SQL we can assign an alias name with the keyword called as. And now if I write select the distinct first name as emp underscore first name, and now if I execute this particular query, you can see the column name has changed to emp first name. So as is a keyword which allows us to assign a alias name to the existing column name. So this is how we can define a employee name or a first name as employee underscore first name. Now the next thing that I'm going to talk about is how we can use a select statement to extract a specific set of data from a given data set. Now for example, I want to extract the top 50 values of a specific table. How we can use a select statement for that? Now let me take a new query for this. And now suppose I come to another table over here. Now let me get a table like I want to get. Okay, let me take this particular table, sales order detail table. Now, what I wanted to know the top 50 order quantity. Now, if I right click on this particular table, I can use some predefined function or predefined option in SQL to extract the top 200 rows or top 1000 rows. So I can see there's an option over here, select top 1000 rows. I can see this particular query is selecting the first 1000 rows from this table. Now how we can make this particular data more dynamic? I don't want to go for 1000 rows. I want to go for 50 rows. So how I can do that? I can write a select statement, select from sales dot sales order details, and I want to select the top 50 order quantity. And if I execute this particular, I have got the top 50 order quantity. So top is the keyword which allows us to select the top n rows from any table. And from that particular table, we can use the top keyword to for any particular column. So this is how we can use a top keyword to get the n number of rows from a specific table. Now what if I want to use the select statement to create segment within the table? Now for this, when I say segment means I want to create groups within that particular data in a table. Now the scenario is I have this employee table over here, right? Now if I come to a new query and I write a simple query over here as select star from human resource dot employee, and if I execute this particular query, I can see over here that the employee table has a columns, and one column is there that is vacation hour. Now what I want to segment this particular vacation hour in terms of good, better, and not specified. So the output of this particular requirement should be, there should be three columns where there should be you can say the job title, the gender, the vacation hour, and one new column which will hold a value as good, where the vacation hour is between 20 and 50. There should be a term called better, where the vacation hour is more than 50, and for the rest of the vacation hours it should show me not specified. So there should be a new column at the end of this particular query. Now the question is how we can achieve this kind of queries over here. For this we'll use a case statement. Now what is a case statement? A case statement is a special kind of provision in SQL which allows you to define multiple conditions, and if any conditions gets fulfilled, then we'll get the desired output. Over here, the requirement is that I want to create a new column which will show me good, better, and not specified for each of the condition defined in terms of the vacation hours. So what I can do, I can write select from human resource employee, and I want to select the column like gender, or I can start with job title, gender, vacation hour, and I'll use the word case where the vacation hour is, sorry, it should be the case hands multiple condition as I said, right? So we'll write case when the vacation hours. So I can drag the vacation hour column from the employee table. I can just open this particular table quickly, and I can drag this vacation hour. So when the vacation hour is between 20 and 50, then mark it as good. So I created the first segment. And then when the vacation hour is greater than 50, then mark it as better. Else mark it as not specified from the employee table. Now, one important thing that we need to keep in mind whenever you're working with a case statement, it's a piece of statement which should have a starting point and the ending point. Now, whenever we have defined a case statement, we have used a case keyword at the beginning, and now we have to end this particular statement over here with the end keyword. And now, what I have to do, now that I have segmented this vacation hour, I want to show this particular vacation hour in a new column. So I can define that particular new column with a as keyword, and I can name that particular column as segment, and I can put it in between the square bracket. And now if I execute it, so I'm getting some errors over here. Let me check quickly. So there's a case else and as. Okay, so I have to put a comma over here. Now, if I execute this select statement, you will find that I have extracted the job title column, the gender column, and the vacation hour column, and a new column as segment which states better for anything where the vacation hour is more than 50, and good where the vacation hour is between 20 to 50, and the rest has been marked as not specified. Now, this is how we can use a select statement to create a segment within the table. And this is how we can create a new column by segmenting or by grouping the data in a specific column. Now, we can have a select statement to group the data and creating a new column. So what I have done, I've defined three conditions, and those three conditions has been specified under the case statement, and those case statement, that particular case statement has an endpoint, and with the help of the segment column I was able to successfully show these three conditions. One important implementation of select statement is you can also use select statement along with the time function. We can use the time components of our data along with the select statement, and we can show it as a different type of we can say values as an output. Now, to better understand this particular scenario, let's work on a requirement. Now, in this particular employee table, I have a column called hire date. Now, what I want to select the top 10 hire date from this particular table, and I want to show those values in terms of year, month, and days in three different columns. Now how to do that? Let's see. So I'll write a query as select from human resource dot employee, and I'll select the top 10 hire date. And the requirement is that I want to show this hire date in three different columns as year. Within bracket I'll write that column name as hire date. So I can bring the hire date over here. I can bring the hire date over here. And I can bring the hire date over here. I can close this bracket as I can name the column as year. I can show the second date as month. Within bracket I can define the hire date column as month, and the third I can do is as day, and I can define the column name over here as day, and I can use a comma over here. Now what I have done, I have used the top keyword to extract the top 10 values from the hire date column, and as per the requirement I have divided this particular hire date into three different columns as year, month and day. Now where with the year function, year is an inbuilt time function of SQL which extracts the year from the given column. Month is an inbuilt function which extracts the month from a given date, and day extracts the day from the given date. And all the three functions have an integer return type. Now if I select this particular statement and if I execute it, I can see that the top 10 hire date has been extracted along with the year, month and day column consisting of the year, month and day from this particular date format. So this is how we can use a time component along with a select statement. How can I use the select statement to find the date difference? So for example, in this particular employee table, I have the birth date and the hire date. Now what I want to find the difference between the birth date and the hire date to find the age at which the person has joined the organization. So I'll use again a select statement for this, and I'll use select from the employee table. And what I will select, I can select the job title, I can select the gender, I can select the what I can go for. I can select the birth date and the joining date, or I can select the hire date from the employee table. And now we can use the date difference function to find the difference between the birth date and the hire date. So I can write over here date difference. So this is an inbuilt function of SQL which takes three arguments: the interval, which should be in terms of year, the start date, the end date, and I want to show it as joining age. And now if I execute this statement, you can see for each of the employee, the different job title, gender, and the hire date and birth date has been showcased in terms of join age. So this date difference function is also an inbuilt time function of SQL which can be used to find the difference between the date. And over here, we are using it to find the difference between the birth date and the hire date of the employees. And we can find the join age of the employee from this particular table. So this is the way we can use the select statement on the various scenarios or use cases in our day-to-day work in SQL. I have discussed the different implementation of SQL statement in today's session. where I have used the operators, I have used the case statement, I have used segments from the table, and I have showcased those data. I hope you have enjoyed this particular video and I was able to clear the agendas for this particular discussion. Thank you for watching this video, guys.